Hello, and welcome to Seeing Stars, a video to help students and parents understand what's happening with the new STAAR end-of-course tests. This movie is brought to you by the curriculum specialists of Wichita Falls ISD. At the high school level, the state is now implementing new end-of-course exams, sometimes referred to as the EOC tests. These exams are part of the new program called the State of Texas Assessments of Academic Readiness, or the STAAR or STAAR system. So we call this video Seeing Stars after the new tests. But there's a lot of information to learn about this new system. It's more like seeing stars because you're confused after getting bonked on the head. So, as your friends from Wichita Falls ISD, we'll try to make everything clear to help you better understand what's going on. Let's start in the fall of 2012. If you are a student who just finished your first year of high school, then you've already taken a set of STAAR, or end-of-course exams.
Yeah, so?
Or you might be about to enter high school for the first time and haven't taken any EOCs yet. Or you may be a student even younger than that. Either way, this information about STAAR tests applies to you.
Whatever, dude.
This information will also be useful to the parents of these students. Hi, sweetie.
Ooh, Mom, what are you doing here? And stop calling me sweetie.
Both students and their parents need to know what the requirements are to get these young people graduated and out of high school.
I have a question. Antonio has an older sister who took the tax test to graduate a few years ago. Will my son have to do the same thing?
Mom, I go by Tony, not Antonio.
No, the tax is not the same as the STAAR tests. To graduate under the tax system, a student had to pass 4 exit-level tests in the core subjects of English, Math, Science, and Social Studies. But under STAAR, students take up to 15 different tests based on the courses that they take in high school. For example, the math tax test was just one general assessment that covered topics from Algebra 1, geometry, and even stuff from 8th grade math. But under STAAR, students take separate exams over each of the individual subjects they take. So they would take a test over Algebra 1, a different test over geometry, and a third test over Algebra 2. Besides Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, the other end-of-course tests include English 1, 2, and 3, Biology, Chemistry, and Physics, and World Geography, World History, and U.S. History. This would seem like only 12 tests, but be aware that the English courses actually give 2 exams each, one in reading and one in writing. These tests are given on different days and have different score requirements, so they really count separately. More detailed information is available about these STAAR EOC tests by starting at www.wfisd.net. You can get a copy of a helpful document from our website. The pages look like this. In fact, if you're watching this video, you have probably already found the web address where these files are posted. We will be using these charts from this document to answer questions throughout the rest of the movie. So you don't really have to have a copy right now, but if you'd like to look at these resources later, they will certainly be available to you.
Okay, because I have another question. I got something in the mail about the biology test that Antonio took in May. It had a chart on it that said, yes, Antonio had met the minimum standard. But the counselor told me that he didn't pass the test. What's all this about?
Well, the counselor was right. The minimum score is not the same as a passing score. To pass, a student has to reach what is called Level 2. We like to use a color-coded chart to talk about all these different score levels. The first thing you should notice is that these EOC tests are not given grades that are percentages. Instead, they have what are called scale scores. These scale scores can range from 1,000 up to 5,000 or more. This example shows scale scores on the biology test for 2012. To pass this exam, students had to achieve a scale score of 3,500. Notice the green section on this chart that is right above the 3,500 cut score. This is what is considered level 2, and it represents satisfactory performance on the STAAR end of course test. On the chart, do you see that blue section up there at the top? If a student makes above the 4,576 scale score on the biology test, he earns a level 3 rating, which represents advanced performance. But anything below 3,500 is considered level 1, an unsatisfactory performance, or a failing grade. So let's go back to Tony's score report. From this no, we can tell that he did not reach the level 3 advanced score, and from this no, we can tell that he didn't pass by reaching that level 2 score of 3,500. So what does it mean that Tony met the minimum score? Well, for this biology test, it means that he scored above this 3367 score, which is out of the red box, but he scored under the 3,500 passing standard, so he didn't quite make it to the green zone. In our chart, we color that area orange. If a student's score is in this orange area, it means that the score is not passing, but it can still be counted toward his testing requirements. I don't understand. He didn't pass, but his score can count? What does the score count for if it's not passing? Well, when we say that scores can count, we're talking about counting towards Tony's graduation requirements. Since we were discussing his biology test, let's think about the other science courses that Tony might take in high school. Because he took his first science end of course test in 2012, he needed a 3,500 to pass biology. And this will be the scale score required for the rest of the science tests that Tony takes in high school. But instead of actually having to get a 3,500 on each individual test, the state instead has a cumulative score requirement that uses the scores of all the science tests combined. Here, if you add 3,500 3 times, you get a total of 10,500. This is the total cumulative score requirement for Tony's science tests. Here's an explanation using the same color coding as before, where the blue and the green represent passing scores, and the orange and the red mean unsatisfactory scores. Remember, for Tony's science test, the passing standard is 3,500. So if he gets a 3,500 in biology, another 3,500 in chemistry this year, and then he might get a 3,500 again in physics the following year, if you add up all these scores, you get a cumulative score of 10,500, which exactly meets the requirement. So in this case, yes, Tony would have enough points on his tests to graduate. But in reality, Tony didn't pass his biology test. He scored in the orange zone with a 3,381. Let's pretend that he gets exactly 3,500 in chemistry, but by his last year in high school, or his junior year maybe, he's a lot smarter, and he gets a 3,875 on his physics test. Could he still graduate? Well, to find out, we have to combine all these scores. And if we do that, here the total is 10,756. Since this is above the cumulative score requirement of 10,500, then yes, these scores would satisfy Tony's graduation requirements for science. Typically, though, scores don't go up as students take harder classes. Physics is an upper-level course, so it will naturally be a little bit harder than what students take when they're 9th graders. So here's a different scenario. Suppose Tony has a friend who aced the biology test with an advanced score of 4,576. Well, if she barely passes chemistry, but then does poorly on physics, can this student still graduate? Again, we have to add up all 3 scores. And here, we'd see that she has more than enough points. However, this student has not met the science graduation requirements. Why? Well, we have to look down at the physics score. Notice that it's in the red zone. The 3,200 is below that minimum score that's allowed on the physics test, so the whole thing doesn't count. The student must retake the physics end of course test before it can count toward her point total.
You said kids have to retake tests if they scored below that minimum, like in the red area, but Antonio scored in the orange area.
Mom, you're so embarrassing, and I'm going by Tony now.
Can he retake his biology test again?
Yes. State guidelines say that students who score below the minimum must retake their exams. But if you fall in that orange area where you've met the minimum score but didn't pass, our district strongly encourages you to retake the exam to get as many points as possible and as soon as you can do it. And even if a student already has a passing level 2 score but just wants to shoot for an advanced performance rating, the state allows kids to do this as well. There are 3 opportunities during a school year for students to retest. They can do it during the summer, usually in July, once in the fall semester, typically in December, and again at the end of the school year in May. You can check with your school counselor for more details.
Okay, so Tony here got a 3381, but he needs a 3500. How close is that? What do these scores even mean?
Well, the state provides all of this detailed information. We've summarized a lot of it for you on these charts that we provide on our website. If we take a look at the biology section, then we can find the scale scores and look up about how many questions you have to get right on the test. This chart says that a scale score of 3381 corresponds to answering 31% of the questions right, and on biology, that's 17 items out of a possible 54.
Antonio, only 31%?
Well, he only needed to get 3 more questions right to pass. To pass biology with a 3500, students actually only need to get 37% of the items correct. That's just 20 questions. If we move across to Algebra 1, we see that the math score requirement is exactly the same for this school year. On the World Geography test, students had to get 31 questions right, but since there were 68 questions total on the test, that's still only 46% of the items.
Yeah, and I passed my algebra and geography tests, Mom.
Well, what about your English tests?
Probably not. I got like a 2000 or something.
Actually, a 2000 might be pretty good for English, because it's split into 2 separate reading and writing tests. So the English scores work on a different scale. The passing score for each test is not 3500, it's actually only 1875. But you have to kind of think about combining the reading and the writing scores, then you get close to a 3500. Actually, it's 3750. So just remember that the English scoring system is very different from the other content areas. In fact, the passing standard for the reading and writing tests is even higher than the other subjects. The English Level 2 scores are at the bottom of this green section on the page. They require at least 54% on the reading test and 65% on the writing. So if Tony made a 2000 on the writing test, you can see from the chart that that equates to about a 73%. That's very good.
See, I told you I was good at stuff like English with all the, words.
Okay, I know. I'm proud of you for that, sweetie. Now, get your hair out of your face, okay?
So here's what we've talked about so far. STAAR is the new state assessment system that replaces TAKS. And in high school, this system is composed of multiple end-of-course exams. Results are given as scale scores that are separated into levels by a minimum, passing, and advanced scores. To graduate, students must reach a cumulative score requirement, or a point total, on the test they are taking in each subject area. And you can use the documents provided by the Wichita Falls ISD to get even more specific information about items and percentages. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have another child who is starting junior high this year. Will all of the information be the same for him when he gets into high school?
Will the STAAR information stay the same? The answer is yes and no. The structure of the system will be the same regarding which tests and what levels, but the numbers will change over the next few years. As new classes of students enter high school, the passing standards will be going up. This is what the state calls a phase-in. And you can see how these standards change in the charts provided by the school district. This is an example from Algebra 2, but the same process works in basically the same manner for each of the other subjects. Notice that students who start taking end-of-course tests in 2012 or 2013 will have to get that 3,500 to pass this test. But for kids who start taking high school math tests in 2014 or 2015, the standard goes up to 3,750. And for all the students starting in 2016 and beyond, the standard will be 4,000. These different levels are what the state refers to as Phase-In 1, Phase-In 2, and the final recommended standards. Again, the district provides these charts if you want to get all that really detailed information. But the same thing is true for the other content areas. Here's a similar table for the English end-of-course tests. See how the passing score goes up over the next few years in much the same way.
So the tests will be harder for my little one? But why are the passing standards going up like this?
Well, standards are always increasing in education. But the end-of-course tests are part of a brand new system in Texas, and they affect whether students can graduate.
Somehow, I still don't feel smarter.
So instead of changing everything at once, the state decided to use a gradual phase-in of the new standards.
Okay, I think I'm starting to understand now, but wow, it's so much to remember.
Well, don't worry. You will have the help of everyone in Wichita Falls ISD. Our teachers and counselors will make sure that students are prepared and have everything they need to be successful on the STAAR tests. The Wichita Falls Independent School District will be behind you all the way.
That's kind of creepy.
Well, that's it for our STAAR video. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact us. All the information you need can be found at www.wfisd.net.